and welcome to Michelle versus the Scale. Today I'm going to be tackling the big question, why? Why surgery? Why YouTube? And why in the middle of a pandemic? Let's start with why YouTube. So one of the reasons I decided to start a YouTube channel was I went searching for bariatric specific, New Zealand specific content on YouTube, and I really didn't find a lot. I could find a lot of Americans and British people in some other countries talking about their experience, but nothing really based in New Zealand or Australia that I could find. So I decided, why not make the content myself? So that's part of why I'm doing this. The other reason is that obesity and weight loss surgery specifically holds a lot of stigma, and I'm hoping that in some small way, me talking about my journey and my experience and just the act of talking about it will help reduce that stigma. Society judges women and men, but to a lesser extent on their size. Men generally get judged for their height, women for their waistline. If I had been born 200, 300 years ago, I might have had the perfect figure. You see obese women in paintings from the Renaissance period or medieval times. Obesity back then was seen as a status symbol. If you could afford to be fat, you must be rich. It's only been in more recent times, the 19th and 20th centuries, that the figures of women have been judged wanting to be smaller and smaller, probably peaking in the 1990s with the skeletal models that were all the rage. However, being that small is also just as bad for your health as being obese. Obesity is a disease, and it can have many causes. It might be caused by an injury and you're no longer able to move, no longer able to be as active as you used to be. It could be caused by a medical condition, or from the medicine that you have to take from a medical condition. There could also just be no cause at all. You just suddenly find yourself overweight. And all of those reasons are none of your fault. But the guilt that we feel most of the time tells us it is our fault. And they always say, lose weight, it's easy. Just diet and exercise. But it's not easy. And it doesn't always work for everyone. Not everyone has the willpower to stick out losing the amount of weight that they need to lose. And failing feels even worse. And so then you begin your cycle again. And then also there's obese people that are perfectly healthy. I read of a marathon runner who is obese and runs marathons. She has no other underlying medical conditions. She is completely healthy, but she's still obese, and therefore she gets judged on that. And that's how stigmas work. So by talking about these things, I think is the only way to try and dismiss some of that stigma. So I decided that I would try and help dismiss that stigma the best way I knew how, and that would be to talk about it. And if I'm just talking about it to my friends and my family, that's one thing. But to put myself out there and talk about it on a platform that anyone around the world could watch, that took something. That did take a bit of thinking, but it comes back to that thing of what I said before, of looking for that thing and not finding it. So deciding to do it myself. So, that brings me to my why surgery. So as I've said previously in, I think at least one video, but definitely in my channel intro, being overweight, apart from obviously when I was a young impressionable woman in my teens and early 20s, being overweight's never really bothered me. My size, I've accepted. I see no problem with it, except on how it affects my health. And it has affected my health a lot more in the last few years. I'm no spring chicken, and I'm not getting any younger. I'm currently 41 years old, and for the last 4 or 5 years I've been on different medications because of conditions caused by my weight. Now before that, I did actually have problems physically because of my weight. I was in a lot of pain, and I controlled that pain usually through ibuprofen and Panadol, just run-of-the-mill standard pills, nothing too extreme. But because of the blood pressure medications that I was put on, I was no longer able to take ibuprofen. And that's when I really started to notice how much pain I actually was in constantly. My knees, my back, my hips, my feet, my ankles. The list kind of goes on. And it's not fun living in pain. I tried dieting. I tried keto. I tried Weight Watchers. That wasn't very successful because of my sweetener allergy. I tried just about every kind of diet I could think of. The only really successful one that I had was fasting, but that wasn't sustainable for me. I lost 10 kilos, and then I put it all straight back on as soon as I stopped doing it. So I felt the only option left to me was something drastic. And so I looked into surgery. It wasn't an easy decision. It was something that I did think about for probably a good 6 months and did a lot of research. And then I approached my doctor about trying to get on the public list. She was not very supportive, but we went ahead with the application anyway. Unfortunately, I was declined quite quickly, and she told me the usual line, just eat less and exercise more. Again, not very helpful. I started with a new employer around that time as well, and part of the package deal for my job was health insurance. And I read in there that they had a part about getting weight loss surgery and that they would put money towards it after I had been with them for 3 years. This made me super excited. This meant that maybe actually I could do this on my own. So I did some more research, found a new doctor who was much more supportive, and together, me and him, we put in another application for public. But while that was going, I was also researching other ways to get the surgery done. Again, unfortunately, I was declined for the public surgery. I later found out that they have a very strict list of conditions that they will actually approve. You need to have a high BMI, and you need to either have diabetes or sleep apnea or both. So I kept going down my private path, and I found out through the Facebook group that I was in that I could use my KiwiSaver as part of my funding, and that gave me so much more hope again. So I knew then that I had 3 years to figure this out and get on my plan, so that when my anniversary for my health insurance came up, I was ready to go. So that's what I did. For 3 years, I researched the different operations. I talked to friends who had gone through these operations. I looked on YouTube. I Googled. I did a lot of research. And it still was something that I wanted to do. So finally, my 3 years was up. It was middle of September. My anniversary was the beginning of October. So I emailed the affiliate surgery for my insurance company, which was one of the prerequisites for getting the funds from my health insurance, and asked for their soonest possible appointment. I knew that they do book out quite quickly and there is usually a wait list. I just didn't think it would be quite so long. So my first appointment was end of November 2021. I took my partner in with me and we talked for probably 45 minutes. He asked me a lot of questions. I asked a few. He explained a few things that I queried about. And I felt like he got me. And he, at the end of the appointment, said, look, you have to see a dietitian and you have to see the psychologist, but I'm pretty sure you're going to fly through those. And so I'm going to book your follow-up appointment right now because I think that they'll just sign you off and you won't have any problems. So that's what we did. So I had my dietitian and my psychologist appointments in early and mid-December. And then I had my appointment to meet with the surgeon again end of January, but unfortunately because of COVID levels, this became a call, which was fine because we just needed to discuss the final details. I confirmed I wanted a gastric sleeve because we had discussed both of them in the appointment, and he gave me my surgery date of the 11th of April. He also told me that he would like me to do 3 weeks of the pre-op diet, which I had discussed with the dietitian, and that all going to plan, he'd see me mid-April. So that also brings me to why now in the middle of a pandemic? It is a hard question that I have asked myself a few times. Why don't I just postpone? There are so many things that could go wrong when you're vulnerable to COVID in the middle of a COVID pandemic. But I feel like I've lived with pain long enough. There's so many things that I would like to do. And even though we physically can't do them at the moment, I can start getting ready to do them. So one of my non-scale goals is to go on a multi-night hike. So after surgery, to start training for that, I'm going to go on more and more walks, and then I'm going to start going on walks with a pack. Hopefully later in the year we can go on our first overnight hike and then a 2-night hike, building up to my goal of a 4-night hike. Especially want to do Lake Waikaremoana, but I know that it's closed at the moment, but I'm hoping by the time that I'm ready for it, it'll be open. So that was a lot of talking. I hope it helped, and I hope it helps you get to know me a little bit better and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So yeah. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out, and the more people that see my channel, hopefully the less stigma there is. So thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye.